The Glock 43X. Today I want to tell you some of the things that I believe would make this gun superior and on the same level as some of the other carry guns that I think really highly of. You know, your Shield Plus, your Equalizers, your P365s, Taurus GX4 even are some of the best carry guns out there. And when I talk about the best carry guns, I'm not just talking about the smallest and lightest and most concealable, but I'm also talking about the most shootable. And so I talk extensively about how a carry gun shoots, the point of aim and all of that, because it leads to confidence when you carry that gun, knowing that, hey, if something were to happen, I can put shots on target. Now, let me just say that this is not a hit piece on Glock. This is me pretty much coming up with the scenario, right? They come up with a Gen 6 Glock, right? Or whatever. These are the things I would like to see in that Gen 6 Glock, or things that you could do with your 43X that may make it better for you if you find any of these things to be an issue. And it's really only a few minor things that would take this from a gun that I barely ever carry to one that I would consistently carry every single day. And the first thing that I want to talk about is the trigger. And so when you pull the trigger on any other Glock that I've personally had or pulled, you get a decent trigger. It's not the best trigger in the world, but it's decent, right? You get the wall, a little bit of creep, and it breaks. Reset, right there, okay? It's not serrated on the front, right? Super smooth. And, you know, typically I shoot these guns pretty well. This gun is no exception. I shoot it fairly well. Hey, 2 for the price of 1. But it is quite obvious that they are not the same trigger. Get to the wall, and it breaks, right? A little less stacking, but it is much heavier than something like your 19 or your 47, and it's serrated on the front. So that right there is not something that, you know, you would notice like if you were in a self-defense situation, like, oh my God, the blade of that trigger and the serrations just kind of, you know, bother my trigger finger. You'd be like, oh, thank God, you know, I saved my life. You know what I mean? Like, but when you're at the range and I'm shooting and I'm analyzing and paying attention to every little thing, that is something I noticed. That not only the blade of the trigger, but the serrations after magazine of shooting starts to get a little irritating. And so that's one of the first places that I would like to see them improve, either in a future iteration or something you could change on this gun that would make a drastic difference. Now, one reason that I don't change these things, and I personally would just like to see them change it in a stock gun, is because, you know, there's a couple of different reasons. First of all, not everybody has the money to buy this gun, let's say $500, ammo, holster, gun belt, maybe training, and then start messing with internals in the guns. You know, more importantly, I don't want to mess with internals in a gun that I'm using or would possibly use for self-defense. I don't want that used against me. And so, in my opinion, when you look at all my guns and you're like, man, all those guns are stock, I want to learn how to shoot those guns really well straight from the factory without changing anything. And so that's why I say I'd like to see them change that in future iterations, but it is something that you can obviously upgrade to make your current one better. Again, I just don't want to mess with anything on the internals, especially on my carry gun. This video and many others is because of direct support from our Patreon members and our channel members right here on YouTube. So if you like to support what we do and know that your support comes right back to you in the form of trusted gun reviews, then I'll leave 2 links down below. One to Patreon and one where you can join right here and never have to leave YouTube. Your support goes directly into the channel, whether it's guns for reviews, ammo, editing, camera, everything that goes into making these videos. Also, check out some of the cool perks that y'all get as channel and patron members. If you don't want to do this or can't do that, totally understand. Enjoy the rest of the video. Big thanks to everybody here that supports what we do. There's another big thing here, and it's kind of like how Harley puts incandescents still on the $30,000 motorcycles. Instead of LEDs, full LEDs, like they'll give you like a LED tail lamp, but then have halogen turn signals. It bugs the crap out of me. And so maybe just like I say with Harley, they have a warehouse full of, incandescents that they're going to use up before they ever, fully upgrade the bikes. Maybe it's the same way with Glock. Maybe they just have a warehouse full of these plastic garbage sights and they're like, hey, we're going to use them all, guys. We're not we're not getting rid of all of them just yet and fully upgrading. Now, of course, from the factory, there are some different sight options that you can get, but generally, this is what you see. You have a U-notch in the rear, you got the white dot in the front, drop in the bucket type of sights. They're awful, man. It is almost a necessary upgrade. And again, the only reason I don't do this is for videos just like this. Plus, I've learned to shoot this gun really well. So it's not like any of this is a huge detriment to me. And it's not like that I can't take this gun to the range and feel adequate with it, because I can. It's just, again, why not put some metal sights on here? Why not a 3-dot setup? At least, blacked out in the rear with a nice bright fiber optic with a tritium insert for, night sight purposes. That to me would be a much better option, and then you wouldn't feel like you have to change it straight from the factory. Now, another thing I'd like to see in future iterations is some kind of a rail here. A lot of companies are doing this now. If we take, I don't know, this Canic Mete, right? It's got a decent sized rail in there. So if this is your only gun, that's really important, because then you can put a light on it, or if you carry it in your holster or whatever, and it's not equipped or made for a gun with a light, but you get home and you put your light on it for self-defense or home defense purposes at that, assuming that this is your only gun. So that is something I'd like to see, but that's a small thing. The other thing, and one of the biggest things that bugs me, is I appreciate that they came out, they had the 43, which was 6 rounds, kind of light, right? But at that time, that fell right in line with what everybody else was doing. Now, with the guns we have out, they have a 10-round gun, but notice the length of the grip. And so I talk about this because the grip length is what you are trying to conceal. Now we have a 19 here. It's got standard 15 rounds compared to the 10-round version of the 43X. Let's even those back up. Do you see that? They are practically the same length, and yet you're missing 5 additional rounds. Now, one thing you will gain, of course, is that right there, the thinness of the gun, and it's going to be lighter. And it's not like it's all bad. I will say that, because you get basically a full-size grip. But it does make it harder to conceal. And so if we compare that, let's just say, by the way, I don't think the Mossberg is as good as the 43X. Not right now. I have to spend some more time with this. I'm wildly inconsistent with this gun. And I know how to shoot these guns really well. Right? Look at that. Now, you don't get a full-size grip, of course, with the Mossberg, but you get a much more concealable gun. If we look at 11 rounds with the FN Reflex, that's with the pinky extension on here, by the way, you can tell how much shorter it is, right? If we look at the 12-round Spectra Comp or the XL, you could put either gun here, and it's still shorter, and you get 2 additional rounds. So instead of going with a traditional double stack or half stack, they just made this magazine and the grip length, or really the grip length, the same height as a Glock 19. Now, they may have been doing that for consistency's sake, so if you come from the 19 and you want to carry the 43X, the transition there as far as the height of the grip is fairly consistent. Of course, it does have a different feel in the hand because it's a smaller gun and all that. But it's just another one of those things, like it's too long for the amount of rounds you get. I mean, we could even take the 17 round X macro. I took the optic off and put it on something else. 17 round X macro compared to 10 round 43X. Look at that. That's crazy, dude. So, in my opinion, that has to be updated and more compact to make it comparable with most of the other carry guns that are out there. And in return, it may make it a little less shootable, but I've proved time and time again with your Shield Plus, your Spectra Comp, your Canik Taurus, all these guns that you can see my reviews on, that you can shoot them as good or better in some cases with a smaller grip, and it's going to be much more concealable. So another thing that I want to mention is back straps. A lot of companies are going to this. If you look at the Canik again, you could swap that back strap over and it'll just help to, you know, fill that gap. Now, personally, I think the gun fills your hand pretty well, but if you have more options, maybe a small option and then a large option, medium comes installed, which is pretty standard, that'll give you some more options. One additional thing, and I know this is never going to change, and this is something that you can change, but you know, it takes work to do that, is the grip angle. It just takes a little bit extra adjustment for me when I pull it out of a holster, get my sights on target. I just wish it had more of a grip angle like a Shield Plus or even the Taurus, the XL, right? When I pull that gun up, there's a little bit of adjustment there, but not that much. When I pull the Spectra Comp, boom, same way. You know, it's very minor adjustments because the grip angle is so good on those guns. I don't see them ever changing that. Pretty much all of your Glocks have that similar grip angle, and I just wish they would change it. Basically, I think the biggest thing with this video is I hope that when Glock comes out with a Generation 6, that they'll take some of these things in mind. And I don't think that it will like hurt the company if they were to go a little bit different direction. People still recognize, and I still recognize, what they've done for this industry, and I have nothing but respect for them. But again, I like to point out the things that I think would make this gun 100 times better. If you like this video, maybe you'll like one of these other ones that I've done here recently, but I'd love to hear from you as well. What do you think would make your 43X or your 43 or your 42 better? What do you think they should throw in a, let's say, a Generation 6? Or maybe some of the things you've already done to your gun? Or do you think it's perfect straight from the factory? Love to hear from y'all. Big thanks to you guys. See you in the next one. And as always, hold them down.